And with a title like that, you're probably asking, why is Inside Job exactly what we need? It just seems like another show that was meant for adults that seems okay, but isn't anything truly special or groundbreaking. Well, I aim to prove it to you through the duration of this video that this is something to look out for. Before we start, make sure to check out the merch at alphaj.show/merch. Because of how successful the run has been, I was able to extend a few of these items for a few more weeks. It's because of the support of you guys I'm already thinking of new ideas of what to do at the beginning of the year. If you partake in watching videos like these, you know that over the years, adult animation has gotten a very polarizing reputation. On one hand, you have shows that challenge the norm while delivering clever and stellar comedy or storytelling in general, not bound to a litany of restrictions and complaints that children's animation may suffer with. These shows can be funny, smart, and casual enough to speak about, and show that the medium is able to compete with other mediums such as live action and anime. On the other hand, you have shows that scrape the bottom of the barrel, shocking only because they're given the opportunity to, and coast on jokes that would get downvoted on the edgiest corners of Reddit, Twitter, and all over, that have characters that are just not redeemable and just unwatchably annoying, that make adult animation seem like an excuse to get off toxic, backwards thinking, gross ideas that its children counterpart would never entertain. For a long time, there was a narrative that there isn't that many adult animated shows to watch, and I feel like within these last 5 years, that's becoming a lot harder and harder to say, as even some of the casual shows have become a great example of what adult animation can offer. Rick and Morty bridged the gap and gave Adult Swim a banger of a show that, while it had its faults, ultimately led with a strong sense of character identity and solid storytelling. Primal was a great example of having an action-heavy show set in the past that tugged on your emotional strings and delivered across the entire spectrum. Close Enough was not only a successful and well-welcomed successor to the cultural juggernaut that is Regular Show, but also delivered on the bro comedy with even less of a filter that was matched with amazing dynamics, jokes, and commentary that's still talked about to this day. While we still have shows like The Prince, Big Mouth, Chicago Party Aunt, and the like that isn't received too well in a lot of animation spaces, you can't deny the legacy of shows like BoJack Horseman, Love, Death and Robots, Ballmasters 9009, Invincible, Tuca and Birdie, and Bob's Burgers have provided, among the ones that I already mentioned. With that, I present to you Inside Job, which first episode starts off with letting you know how much of the theme of conspiracy lies within the show.
Because in America, the government works for you.
Bullshit! Listen up, kids. Everything they teach you in school is a lie. You want the truth? The world is controlled by shadowy elites and shape-shifting lizard people.
There's a few dynamics in this episode explored. One of them is with Rand Ridley, this comfortably attired old man who's going on a drunken or buzz rant about a lot of conspiracy theories that are popular to say today, whether in jest or entirely serious, and his daughter, main character of the show, Reagan Ridley, who of the two works for said shadow government, Cognito Inc. What this show does at the start, however, is establish their different viewpoints towards working for the shadow government, given that Rand not only worked there, but was the former CEO.
Dad, what the fuck? Has retirement made you go completely insane?
No, but the 5G radio waves in the air have, which you can read all about in my new manifesto, available on Kindle.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Don't listen to my father, kids. He gets his news from Facebook and Ambien.
They establish the relationship between the two is not one that is in harmony. That isn't to say that they're mortal enemies, but there's clearly a struggle between the two as far as competing opinions about Cognito and the way that America works. They managed to pull it off in a humorous way, and not in a way that seems preachy from either side, which is really important when including commentary within any piece of media. I also just enjoy the tinier gags in this, like the mentioning that he gets his news off of Facebook, which I guess is now Meta or whatever, which is known for skewing its algorithm and news towards certain users, and throwing the America keychain at the kid's eye because democracy. The main idea explored throughout this episode is Reagan's self-worth as a person and a contributor to Cognito, of which her day's enjoyment is predicated on this promotion she seems confident in getting. They showed that she's the type to juggle a lot of different issues all at the same time, as while her struggle with her father post-retirement is one glaring problem, she's going to deal with a lot more later on. We see Cognito, which on the surface shows itself to be a quote company, but there's a deeper layer underneath, which is where all the magic happens.
Can't tell people that the government isn't real.
But it's not.
Dr. Ridley? Can't talk about shape-shifting reptiles.
Good morning, Senator. Revenues and,
All of which we see the atmosphere they're building quite nicely through references to the term sheeple, Obama's birth certificate, the appearance of Bigfoot, the appearance of mole people, Walt Disney's head in a jar, what I'm assuming to be the Pope's mitre, the mention of crisis actors on the wall, and a lot of other tiny details that would take the rest of this video to adequately go through. Needless to say, the team had a lot of fun designing the world and the office and making sure that it has a great personality. In fact, one detail I enjoy quite a bit is the glitch effect on the ceilings in some of the scenes here. However, the biggest detail here is the robotic president that is sitting in a makeshift Oval Office that Reagan throughout this episode describes as her life's work, but enough about attention to detail. Let's get back into the comedy.
Take my dad home. If he gives you any trouble, don't be afraid to lightly tase him.
Do it. I fucking dare you. You know who I am? I'm Rand motherfucking Ridley, and I used to run this company.
And soon, I will be running it. Nothing higher than a 3! Later, Dad!
Motherfucker!
Quick aside, the intro sequence that comes after this is great. However, we're getting into another dynamic that involves Reagan, her relationship with her team, which are very reluctant to listen to her as they're off doing their own individual things, often getting into a bit of trouble or drugs, or both, in the process. I think the inclusion of these mature themes don't come across as compensating for bad writing or trying to appeal to the lowest common denominator, but actually pretty good natural dialogue. Reagan attempts to get her team, which is apparently in charge of running the free world, which includes looking at Mark Zuckerberg's profile, to actually focus on their work and not slack off. They continue to build up the anticipation of Reagan getting this promotion, not just through her father, but her co-workers.
You're not the boss of us.
Actually, as of 12 p.m. today, I'm literally going to be the boss of all of you.
Oh.
And I'm in a band groaning. No more group groaning. That's right, you get them all out while you still can.
Reagan, I'd like to see you in my office.
Ha ha! Suck my dick!
Although the weakest of the four dynamics that are in this episode, in my opinion, they serve as a casual buffer between the stronger A-sides. Speaking of stronger, we get the third of the four dynamics between Reagan and JR, the current CEO of Cognito, who has an interesting relationship with Reagan throughout this episode. Well, this episode did a great job of building up that Reagan is responsible and hardworking, proving to herself to have the work ethic and former reputation of her father, former CEO. JR bluntly says that Reagan struggles with people skills, which hits home for her.
Since your dad had his meltdown and you took over his duties, productivity is up and team morale has skyrocketed.
Thank you, sir.
Let me finish. Into the toilet. Look at your HR complaints. Difficult. Doesn't make eye contact. Says suck my dick a lot for a woman.
You know, that's terrible. How could you have HR, human resources, when a sizable amount of people who work within Cognito are not human? Where do the lizard people go for complaints? Is it even productive to scale your HR equivalent departments across the variety of species within the deep state? These are the questions that everyone wants to know. When it comes to all of these comments, she basically says that she has no problem with those. But speaking of problem, she's going to be confronted by her biggest one yet, a co-leader.
Red hand, thrilled to be serving whoever gives me approval.
What the hell, JR?
Congratulations, Reagan. You're still getting your promotion. And so is he.
This is the fourth dynamic that she deals with within this episode, and quite possibly the one that gathers the most attention. Her dynamic with easygoing, happy-go-lucky, now promoted co-leader, Brett Hand. We get a lot of build-up that Reagan was the top student at MIT, works very hard, is working on a robotic president to serve as a replacement, and to have this jolly guy be a co-leader appears to be a slap in the face. There's a lot of of themes within this that are explored, and depending on your perspective, whether you split this down gender-wise, personality-wise, reputation-wise, or any other perspective, you're bound to come away with a lot of different stuff here. Brett is an interesting character whose opinion I shifted more times than I'd like to admit on episode 1. Ultimately, towards the end, I see him as a well-rounded and needed character, possibly even a foil to Reagan, who can provide heartwarming moments, funny moments, maybe the wild, chaotic moments in between. However, throughout the review, I would be lying if I didn't say that he didn't lean on the side of being too naive to care about. However, the payoff is definitely worth it. After figuring out that the president he tried greeting was a robot and asking if Cognito is evil and getting a vague answer, Reagan has an important question.
So, how did you get this job?
Honestly, I graduated Yale, top of my frat, spent some time as a lobbyist because I love lobbies, and last weekend I was at a barbecue with JR and he said he liked how firm my handshake was. Next thing you know, they're throwing a bag over my head and then boom, I'm here.
Oh my god. You don't have any experience at all.
This sets off the premature judgment of Brett from Reagan, given that one thing she does value is her recognition. It is the reason she felt like she deserved the promotion. It also sets off her judgment of Brett, getting more and more solidified seeing him win over the office, which also doubles up as the short time we get to meet the co-workers. We meet Gigi, head of media manipulation and subliminal messages at Cognito, who takes a strong liking to Brett right away. Glenn, this half-dolphin, half-human hybrid super soldier who gave his life for the country and also oversees weapons. Magic Mike, or just Mike, a psychic mushroom sort of character who came from the Hollow Earth, an archaic concept in our timeline, at least as far as we know, where he's responsible for giving humanity intelligence by offering their spores to ancient apes for consumption. And lastly, Dr. Andre, who is in charge of biochem but is almost always on drugs throughout this episode, even before this point. We also get this very funny bait and switch scene here.
We could form a little alliance, you know? I could slip some rat poison into his coffee, make it look like an accident, huh? Holy shit, you thought I was serious?
No, I just had something in my eye, asshole.
Why would you think that?
If anything, it shows you how ready Reagan was to completely get rid of this guy, which is somewhat of a flaw on her end, as she does show herself all throughout this episode to not have that many positive interactions with anyone so far. The only net neutral interactions were with the intern, and she was giving orders in that particular context. She's yelled and reprimanded her father, bickered and taunted her co-workers, argued with her boss, and felt repulsed and offended at her co-leader for having the same position as her. Whether or not she's self-aware of this aspect, she's very clearly not happy with the fact that other people point out this aspect. The show also shows you that it does not come without reason, as multiple people around her contribute to making her environment a lot harder to navigate with a happy mind. Speaking of coming home exhausted, Rand is roasting a show that appears to have Neil deGrasse Tyson on it, not even really listening or caring about Reagan's concerns at all.
JR hired this guy Brett to help co-lead the team, but it's not a big deal.
What? I smell a coup. JR is a snake, Reagan. He's trying to push you out of the company just like he did to me.
Dad, you weren't pushed out. You were fired for getting drunk and trying to blow up the sun.
Wait, people do that when they're drunk? I do that when I'm sober. I love scenes like this, 50 points if you know what that reference is to, because it is clear that Reagan is talking to a biased source, who obviously would never see Cognito as anything other than a cutthroat, disloyal, backstabbing company. However, given her reaction to Rand, she seems to filter through the bias and understand that presumably like her other problems, she can simply just outwork Brett, and maybe JR or the team will recognize her as being the true leader. This cleverly falls into the sunken cost fallacy, as she's falsely attributing the man hours or woman hours put into her AI president to mean that everyone feels the same about her project. Spoilers, they don't.
Your team has done excellent work, Jailer. I see a robe and a creepily disguised voice in your future.
Well, the praise here belongs to...
What up, players? Guess who brought bagels?
Oh, poppy seed.
Thank God. I have raging munchies.
Brett! No one has ever gone above and beyond like this.
We are most pleased. We will not soon forget the name. Brett.
This scene is fantastic. You have Reagan's entire life work in front of the overlords up there, and the entire thing is derailed because of bagels? But is Brett really doing anything wrong? From his perspective, he was brought on because of his can-do, feel-good attitude that the team eats up. It's very clear that the team values that more than any achievement, despite the fact that the overlords clearly would love what Reagan could offer. It really lets you know that sometimes it's not what you say, but how you say it. I wish I can do this scene justice, but this is the foundation of this episode, the struggle between identity and worth, not just with Reagan, but also with Brett, as we'd see in the later half, as it's portrayed here beautifully. This sets up alarms for Reagan, who spends the entire night researching Brett, thinking that his happy-go-lucky outlook must be a front for something or someone who wants to harm Cognito and the deep state.
You think you know Brett, but you know nothing. Exhibit A, his resume. He said he worked at the State Department, but he did not say it was as a personal trainer.
I see no lies, just a rockin' bod.
He can't be trusted. He plays all sides. In high school, he was a goth and a jock. On his SATs, he filled in all the circles. We have no idea who this guy is.
Reagan, this is your dad's breakdown all over again. You're off the Robotus launch.
What? But that's my life's work.
Take off the rest of the week, month, whatever. Don't come back till your head's straight.
The episode clearly gives Reagan a lot of sympathy here, given that she was rightfully shadowed by Brett, who absolutely holds no qualifications for the job of leading the team beyond being pleasant to be around. It also reaffirms what Rand says, although I'd argue a self-fulfilling prophecy, that Brett was just here to push her out. However, you can also argue that if she did nothing, she'd be doing all the work for Brett to get all the credit because he's nicer. It's that all is lost moment that has a lot of layers that makes it all work. I also thought the song is pretty neat. We then get to see Rand and Reagan lounge on the couch, complaining to the void that they get tossed away for speaking the truth. Meanwhile, Brett, who was promoted to being the solo leader, would show signs of understanding the amount of stress one would overtake if their mission was to assure that an AI president that they have no idea how it was made needs to appear as lifelike as possible so that it can be used regularly and we wouldn't have to deal with all of the actions of a human president that would be harder to control. Obviously, he's barely able to take the pressure, but the AI goes fine until it's hit with the dreaded camera flash.
Sir, your choice?
Have you ever woken up and had that feeling you've been on autopilot your whole life?
What did he just say?
He insulted our country's brave autopilots!
It is here where the president becomes fully sentient, true AI as they say, where even though the intelligence was man-made, the AI has become just as, if not more intelligent at doing a wide variety of tasks better than even the most intelligent humans. I think that part of this episode dives into political territory not only tastefully well, in an entertaining way, but it keeps a lot of jargon on the side, which I think keeps it open to a lot of different people on the spectrum. As the president declares superiority over other nations at this dinner event, it leads into him wanting to create not just a wall, but a cube to keep everyone in, and keep who isn't in, out. Obviously, Reagan didn't program the robot to do that, and somehow it must have been altered nefariously. We know Brett is too dim-witted to do it, JR didn't even know who to thank, and the rest of the team is either too high or preoccupied to even touch that territory, so that just leaves one person.
I might have fudged with the robot's code so its inhibitor chip would turn off if you were removed from payroll. Boom! One flash and its code breaks.
What?
Help! Oh god, Reagan, help! The robot's gone rogue. Everybody's yelling about how the shadow government will collapse and we'll all be fired and everyone's gonna be mad at me!
If they want you to fix this, make them pay. Then we can really go bananas at Wetzel's Pretzels.
Oh my god, this wasn't about helping me out. This is just another crisis that you engineered to get me to hang out with you! Brett, I'll be right there. We need to get to New York and fix Robotus.
This is what makes Reagan an interesting main character, to jump through hoops all throughout your life, to take your father's job, and try to mend any harsh feelings after his outbursts, working tirelessly on your life's work, which is near true AI, only to have it all casted aside when it's done for the guy who brings bagels, is a completely fine and fair reason to give into the self-fulfilling fallacy that her father poisoned her with. He's jaded and bitter about being let go, and I can completely envision a future, not saying it's true, where he was rightfully angry about being wronged, but the scenario presented to us that that Cognito would have kept moving on if the AI worked correctly. Obviously, they would have to find someone to maintain it, but no one would be in danger. I see many people today wanting to watch the deep state burn if they were in Reagan's position, and initially, I was too, until I sat back and thought, if the deep state ever did go down, given that my invention hypothetically would be the catalyst to that situation, I would not be too far from being targeted. However, that leads me to an interesting question that this episode doesn't answer. Brett referenced Men in Black when he mistook a neutralizer for a tampon. However, why didn't Rand get neutralized or decommissioned when he was let go? Why isn't there a department specifically for making sure that things like this can get heavily edited or manipulated to not look like a big deal to the public? Come on, Kids Next Door was doing this with boogers, people.
What's up, dipshit? How's it hanging?
Do I know you?
You better. Georgetown, class of 02, Sigma Phi, right?
Phi till I die, bro.
That's what I thought, bitch. Slap it.
Damn, you can really bro down.
I'm here to relieve you from duty, actually. You can take 15, bitch.
I don't know if it's your confidence or the fact that you're a fellow straight white male, but I trust you.
And I really like this scene, because with the majority of this episode setting up Brett to just be a yes man who cracks under pressure and wasn't really given anything to do other than to be a cheery guy, we get to see that he's not perfect. In fact, he fumbled his way throughout the logistics of this mission, and it was only when he had to use his charm that he excelled. It was something that he can do that Reagan could not, and I think that's what makes this work. Confronting the president, Reagan would use the command to shut him down, but it doesn't work, as the AI president rewrote his own AI code. And as interesting as a scenario this is, it really does make me think about the real world scenarios that this could bring. Also, I don't know if I'm messing up the vibe by bringing up something minute, but Reagan's ability to rip her phone in half like it's nothing is amazing. I'm not gonna advocate for any of you to try that because that's irresponsible. Simply buy a brand new phone and try it on that one. Way more responsible. However, getting back to the point, Reagan uses this to show the president social media and show the depths that America has sank to in a social sense.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, just Florida alone.
Right?
It appears you were right, Reagan. All of humanity is flawed.
See? He learned.
The best thing for humanity is to end it.
Whoa, didn't see that coming.
Kind of an obvious direction to go, but we do get some action out of it. So apparently after realizing that fighting a robot that has true AI in hand-to-hand combat would not work well in her favor, and that after suspiciously taking a phone's electrical wires and somehow making a gun attachment with it, and trying to chase the president doesn't work in her favor either, Brett helps. It's not like Brett steals the show or saves the day, it's the effort of both of them. Brett is really good at taking direction and takes initiative only in the things that he's good at. And also, given that his job and maybe life is on the line if the president gets away with this, it's in his best interest to follow the person who made the AI, or at least made the start of the AI. Reagan would then go on to contact her team, or I guess her former team, who is still not listening to her at all. Again, they balance each other out. Where she excels at is the logistics of getting them from point A to point B, and figuring out the best course of action. He excels at the people skills, which when you're going through government, you literally cannot excel without those unless you're extraordinarily talented at everything else. So as you see here, Brett convinces the team when Reagan could not, and this leads into the big confrontation.
Reagan, out! Take the shot! Ow! Ow!
She won't do it.
Wait, why? Why would she not?
Because I'm her life's work, and she knows humanity's a pox. All you do is tweet hot takes and shout "World Star" during street fighting videos. Everyone disappoints you, and that's why you've buried yourself in your work. I may be a cold, calculating machine, but you are too.
That's really what it comes down to, right? Is she willing to kill her life's work to save humanity? Well, I mean, the answer is yes, obviously, but it's also about the aftermath of this. She kills this thing that she's been working on presumably for years, and it's pretty much like she never did anything. At this point, before the corruption of the AI, she could at least lean on the fact that she did program something, but now, without that, it's not like her boss or team misses her. Not only that, but everyone has a problem with her personality. But she also acknowledges that she is somewhat difficult, and through that, the destroys her life's work. Now to her, she feels dejected because this was supposed to prove that she can run the company, to which I do have a question. If JR was the CEO, what was exactly going to be the move here? Was JR gonna get bumped into the shadowy hood figures and Reagan was gonna take his place? Were they gonna swap? Like, they didn't really make that clear in episode 1 at least.
I'm the one that should be fired. The company can't run without you.
No, the company can't run without us. You're the charm. I get it now. I actually need a mediocre white man to act as a human shield and social lubricant.
They reach a common understanding. It's very clear that Reagan has not worked on her social skills, which doesn't make her a weak character, but it does make her flaws center in on her lack of communication skills and picking up on social cues as well as reading the room. They showed that Brett could not handle the job without managing a lot of stress, and it's not like he went to MIT to study or anything, so they have a really solid balance between each other. So the actual president returns to his job, Brett gets the spotlight as JR sweeps the fact that he fired Reagan under the rug, and oh, what do we have here? The AI isn't fully gone? Solid way to finish the episode. Although animation has been on a rise with a lot of great options to pick, no longer are the days where you're bound to a handful of obscure good shows while the popular shows range from formerly good to maybe decent to never good in the first place. I'm looking forward to covering more episodes when I get the chance, but until then, let me know what you think in the comments down below. Make sure to check out alphaj.show/merch, and until next time, take care. Alpha out.